Welcome to Travelpop, one country, 10 minutes each week on Cavan Online Radio. On this week's show, I'm talking about Nepal. Well, I've got 10 minutes to cover Nepal. That's going to be excruciatingly difficult because I used to live there. It's a wonderful country, probably one of the most wonderful countries I've ever visited in my life, and I've been to quite a few. Nepal is a country of extreme climates, extreme tribal ethnicities. It's one of those absolute wonderlands to visit. The climate itself is varied. It's got heavy monsoon from June to September. It's clear and cool from October to December. It's cold from January to March, can reach as low as 0 degrees Celsius in Kathmandu, and you can have snow and frost in the capital, which is usually tropical in the summertime. And then from April to June, you have a dry or warm season. It's completely varied. Most people might think of Nepal and think of mountains and stuff, but it does have over 90 peaks, which are over 7,000 meters in height, but it does go as low as 100 meters in the tropical Terai region. The area has a population of 27 million people, and it uses a currency called rupees. As far as religions are concerned, it is predominantly Hindu at 81%, it has 9% Buddhism, 4% Islam, 3% Kirat, and 1.5% Christian, with the rest being, for example, Sikhs, Jains and other religions like that. The areas that Nepal can be broken up into are the Himalayan region. This includes the Everest region, Annapurna, and Langtang National Park. The second area is Kathmandu Valley itself. Kathmandu is the capital city. It has a population of over 2.5 million people, but the valley itself is a string of cities in that Kathmandu Valley. It used to be a lake before either a geological occurrence vacated the lake, and then it became a settleable valley, which it did, and that's where the capital was done. Kathmandu is there. There's an area called Bodhanath, which is well worth a visit. Patan is another area well worth a visit, and Swayambhunath, but we'll talking about a little bit of those later on in the show. The next region, the third region, is called the Middle Hills, or the Hilllands. They range between 700 metres and 4,000 metres. Anything above that becomes the mountainous regions. Located here is, for example, Pokhara Valley, which is the second city and probably the most popular tourist destination of most people who come and visit Nepal. Pokhara is the city that I used to live in, and it is absolutely cherished in my heart for all time. It's utterly wonderful, beautiful, and a great place to go and visit and to live as well. The people are great. The next region we're talking about is one of the tropical regions, the West Terai. Both Terai regions are tropical lowland regions bordering along India. West Terai includes Chitwan, Lumbini and Soraha, and we'll be talking about them in a minute. The East Terai is very different though. It's heavily populated, and it's most influenced by Indian culture and Indian ways, and it's probably one of the more Indianized areas of Nepal, and that's something you realize when you go to Nepal. It is, although it's a Hindu culture and it's a Hindu country, it's very different to India. The cultures are different, the tribal ethnicities are different, and it's just a different way of living, and it's more relaxed, sparser populated, although much more populated compared to here, but it's worth living. If you do go to East Terai, it's worth visiting the temple complex of Janakpur. It's a beautiful place. Okay, so we're talking about 10 things to do in Nepal while you're there. Of course, most people think of, we'll go climb Mount Everest, but I'm not including that on the list. I do have 10 elements. A lot of them have to do with hiking and mountaineering, which I love. But Mount Everest itself, for me, is an out. You need to be superbly, incredibly fit to be able to climb Everest. Even just to get to base camp below Everest, you need to be training for years beforehand, or you need to have an excellent level of fitness as well. Even those who are fit don't make it. Altitude sickness and other ailments kick in place as soon as you're up at those high altitudes. You're talking over 7,000 meters. Most of the base camps, and base camps are areas where you go to before you even climb the mountain. Most of the base camps are at altitudes that are higher than the highest mountains in continental Europe. So you're talking about extreme challenges that are suffering on the body. So I'm not including Everest in this. It's not something that I've done. I did go to the Everest region, but I certainly never climbed Mount Everest. Okay, so first off, we are talking about a hike, and it's a gorgeous hike. It's wonderful. I absolutely recommend it. And it's called the Annapurna region. You can reach it via Pokhara, and it's a 2-week circuit through Gurung towns. Gurungs are a type of tribe there, and it's a beautiful area, gorgeous experience of the Himalayas. It does take between 12 and 16 days, so usually about 2 weeks, and you will be travelling in a group. You will be travelling with porters and things like that, so it's an incredible activity to take on. But Annapurna is beautiful, and particularly Fishtail Peak, which is the double-peaked mountain there. It looks like the tip of a whale's tail going down into the mountains. It's beautiful to see when it's snow-clad. Gorgeous, gorgeous. Next up, we're talking about Chitwan and Sauraha. These are in the tropical Terai regions nearer India. Sauraha is a village in the Chitwan National Park. And if you want to go and experience sipping coffee at the side of the road and there's elephants walking down the road, you need to go to Sauraha. If you want to go and hop on these elephants and feed them and bathe with them in the mornings, you go to Sauraha. It's a great experience. If you want to go to a hollowed out log and crossing a river in that little canoe while there are crocodiles in the river and different animals in the river and rhinos, and then going on top of an elephant and looking down on wild one-horned rhinos, that's the experience you're going to get in Sauraha and in Chitwan. And it's an absolutely beautiful place. Travelling there is an experience though. The buses between Pokhara and Sauraha, Chitwan and to Kathmandu are quite gruesome, particularly in the wet season, and I did a few experiences there that were actually terrifying in monsoon rains, where we had to stop cars and wait for mud flows and mudslides to pass by. Next up, we're going to Lumbini. Again, this is close to the Indian border. This is the birthplace of Buddha. It's also a temple city. It's an exquisite place to visit. It's beautiful. It has a different temple in each area of the city itself. When I say city, it's not that there are any buildings there. It's a city of temples. There are dozens and dozens of massive multi-storied temples of every different design you can imagine. There's a Japanese Buddhist temple, there's a Chinese Buddhist temple, there's an Indian Buddhist temple. It's an incredible array of testament to the Buddha and an honouring of his memory. And Lumbini is a very spiritual and a very incredible place to visit. Next up, we have 3 sections here. So fourth up is Kathmandu, and primarily most tourists will stay in a place called Tamil Chowk. Chowk basically means a crossroads, and Tamil is the area that you're staying in, and Tamil Chowk is basically the touristic area of Kathmandu. If you want to go and visit Swayambhunath, you're going to experience monkeys all over the place. It is the monkey temple. It's where they live, where they bathe, where they eat, and it's an incredible experience. Durbar Square is the heart of Kathmandu. It's the place where you'll experience ancient Kathmandu. And Kathmandu itself is so ancient, it does feel like you're going into a time machine as well as an exotic journey to another place. So do prepare yourselves. It's an incredible experience. Next up on the list for Kathmandu is Pashuputanath. Now, Pashuputanath is a Hindu temple, and so do be prepared that you may not be able to go into certain areas, because the Hindus, although they respect all beliefs and all religions, are quite protective about people from outside their religion visiting particular areas that are sacred to them. Do respect this. This is an area where their funerals are hosted, etc. But it is an experience to go to the area across the park, across the river, and to watch the funeral cremations take place. It's a very humbling experience and one of the most spiritual and wonderful experiences I've ever taken place in. Next up, we're visiting Pokhara. Pokhara is the second city of Nepal. I have a special place in my heart for this place because I lived there for quite a while, and it's absolutely gorgeous. If you're going to do a few things there, you're going to do visiting the World Peace Pagoda and Sarangat. They're hikes up on top of hills in this valley. You can go paragliding in the area as well. But do also visit Tashi Palkel. It's a tiny little village outside of Pokhara, and if you want a taste of Tibetan culture, this is where one of the Tibetan refugee camps are located, and it's a beautiful, beautiful village, and the monastery there is a great place to go. Very last on the list before we finish up is, and I'm just going to suggest this, now it can be quite expensive, can be difficult, sometimes the routes are closed. You can visit Tibet from Nepal, but it can be complex. You should consult a tourism agent there. And Mount Kailash, and you leave from Hilsa in Nepal and you go via Purang. Mount Kailash is a holy mountain. It's where most of the rivers in Southeast Asia and South Asia rise from, and it's a spiritual center of Buddhism, Jainism and Hinduism, and it's a completely amazing place to visit. Okay, I'm conscious of half a minute left. So visas, you can get visas on arrival. Watch out for the water in Nepal. It might be a beautiful country, but it does have sanitation issues in some cases. That includes, do not let water go in your mouth when you're having a shower, and don't brush your teeth with water from the taps, because you can get what's called giardia, which gives you diarrhea and can make you sick. Be careful of the altitude sickness as well. Oh, by the way, if you do get giardia, then go to the local chemist. You can get medication. Altitude sickness, bad problem. Be careful of it. Consult people. Dogs are out at night. Dogs do have rabies. Be very careful. Always say namaste to people. It's a wonderful blessing and all that kind of stuff. And don't point your feet towards people. That's also rudeness. I really hope you enjoy Nepal. Please do try and get to it. I'm out of time. Go to Nepal. It's the best country I've ever been to in my life. So good, I actually stayed and lived there for a while. Thank you very much. That's been my 10 minutes on Nepal from Travelpop on Cavan Online Radio. Bye bye.